Would you trade your freedom for all the money in the world? Hi everyone, Ken here. Today we are exploring the many mansions and the gilded cages of Consuelo Vanderbilt. Hit that like button to let YouTube know you appreciate historic homes, and let's begin exploring this house. This video is sponsored by Victorian Society in America. More on them later. Consuelo Vanderbilt was born into the fourth generation of one of America's wealthiest families. Her father, William Kissam Vanderbilt, inherited the modern-day equivalent of billions of dollars from both his father and grandfather and went on to marry Consuelo's mother, Alva Erskine Smith. Alva had married above her social status, though she did come from a wealthy southern family of cotton brokers. Perhaps that is why she felt the need to compete so fiercely to maintain her social standing. In 1882, when Consuelo was 5 years old, the family moved into their Fifth Avenue Manhattan mansion known as the Petit Chateau. This mansion, drawing inspiration from French Renaissance aesthetics, was one of the early adopters of the chateauist style in New York City, setting a trend for future architectural endeavors. The exterior, carved by more than 40 artists, was a marvel of late French Gothic style mingled with Beaux-Arts refinement. But despite its beauty, life inside the mansion was anything but ideal for young Consuelo. She was kept under lock and key by her mother, who sequestered her away from society. She was educated entirely at home by governesses and coached in etiquette. Alva could not stand the thought of her daughter being anything other than perfect. To correct Consuelo's posture, she forced her daughter to wear a steel rod at all times, which ran down her spine, making it impossible for the child to bend over or nod her head. If this abuse wasn't bad enough, Alva would whip her when she would so much as speak out of turn. As Consuelo came into her teens, she began organizing an exit strategy from her gilded cage. She met Winthrop Rutherford and fell deeply in love with him, and the two planned to elope. When Alva caught word of Consuelo's plans to run away with her secret lover, she locked her in her room and refused to let her leave. Alva had been busy courting men of royal descent for her daughter to marry and simply would not allow Consuelo the privilege of a loving marriage. She chose Charles Spencer Churchill, the 9th Duke of Marlborough, to marry Consuelo. In exchange for the marriage, which would include a royal title for Consuelo, the Vanderbilts would pay the Duke millions of dollars worth of stocks and a trust to pay out every year for the rest of his life. The Duke, now cash poor, desperately needed that money to maintain and restore his familial home, Blenheim Palace. After a brief introduction, Consuelo begged her mother to call off the wedding as there was no chemistry between her and the Duke. Alva faked an illness and manipulated Consuelo into thinking that the only way to save her would be to obey her and follow through with the wedding, which Consuelo did. Now the Duchess of Marlborough, Consuelo moved to England to live with her new husband in Blenheim Palace. Started in 1705, the palace was added onto many times over the years, becoming one of the largest and most renowned country houses in the UK. Blenheim's architecture was the envy of America and one of the sites so commonly copied by architects in the New World. Not only was it adorned with statuary and intricate relief work, the imposing mansion was placed in a park-like setting, being surrounded by water terraces and formal gardens. Though as Consuelo pulled through its gates and made her way towards the entry portico for the first time, we can imagine her dread being married to a complete stranger in a country far away from anyone she knew. Before we head inside, a quick word about the sponsor of today's video, Victorian Society in America. Are you obsessed with historic architecture? Have you ever wanted to go beyond reading and learning to actually experience historically and architecturally significant sites? With the Victorian Society in America, you can travel to American cities and tour exceptional 19th century buildings, and pursue learning in internationally acclaimed summer study programs in Chicago, Newport, and London. Join the Victorian Society in America this May for an educational tour in Baltimore. The itinerary is packed with exciting visits to key architectural sites, landscapes, and artistic gems. Click the link in the video description to visit victoriansociety.org to register today. Your architectural adventure starts here. Thank you, Victorian Society in America, for sponsoring today's video. Now let's explore this house. To enter Blenheim Palace, we will make our way towards the portico. As we approach the front door, we look up, perhaps feeling the same unease that Consuelo once did. Stepping beyond the front door onto the dotted marble floor, we arrive in the Great Hall. This massive room is clad in stone from floor to ceiling and flooded by natural light. Above us, the ceiling contains an intricate mural set within a gilded cartouche. First, we will travel straight ahead to the saloon, where we can imagine many speechless dinners as Consuelo and the Duke sat at opposite ends of the table. While living here, the couple had 2 children whom Consuelo loved very much, but even so, she found herself wanting to escape again. If she were to leave her marriage and file for divorce, her children would not be allowed to come with her, not until they became adults. In just a few short years of living in this loveless marriage, Consuelo and the Duke officially separated, and her kids continued to grow up in Blenheim. They were afforded all the privileges of their royal bloodline, with a library overflowing with rare and sought-after books. With Vanderbilt money funding the day-to-day operations of the palace, it was once again fully restored and fully staffed. From live music bellowing from the built-in pipe organ to an army of groundskeepers, Blenheim had new life. The art collection only continued to grow, filling room after room with paintings by the greats. But perhaps nothing was more poetic than the installation of a gold toilet, possibly mirroring Consuelo's attitude toward the palace and arranged marriage. Her father had gifted the couple a city mansion in London named Sunderland House, an extravagant residence where Consuelo could escape to from time to time. During her separation, she buried herself in philanthropic work and earned a reputation among the less fortunate as a person who truly cared. And when World War I broke out, not only did she fund hospitals, but her city mansion was used to aid the war effort. She then leased Crowhurst Place, a medieval hull house which had been started in the 1400s. Here she was finally able to find herself, diving into preservation work and rebuilding over half the house. She spared no expense to ensure that the materials and techniques used were appropriate for the building. She greatly expanded the house's gardens and maintained its lawns, earning her much respect from the English aristocracy. Finally, as her children became adults, Consuelo and the Duke officially divorced in 1921, freeing her from the shackles that kept her trapped in England. In that same year, she married Jacques Balsan, an heir to a textile fortune and a David airman. Now in her 40s, she was free for the first time to marry for love and make her own decisions, not beholden to contracts arranged by her parents. She and Jacques began planning their new life together in France, building both a city mansion in Paris and a house on the Riviera. Villa Luxeuil was positioned between Nice and Monte Carlo in the south of France. The villa was surrounded by lush gardens with sweeping views spilling off the horizon. When Consuelo's mother caught wind of her daughter building a house here, she purchased the house next door, and the two began a long journey to mend their relationship. With the passing decades, Alva had changed and grown as a person, becoming heavily involved in women's rights. Consuelo must have seen how remorseful Alva was for her abuse, and she forgave her. A few years later, in 1926, Consuelo and the Duke's marriage was annulled by the Catholic Church, with Alva testifying that, "I forced my daughter to marry the Duke, and I have always had absolute power over my daughter." While still on this journey to recovery, Consuelo and Jacques purchased Chateau Saint-Georges Motel in 1922 to use as the couple's official country house outside of Paris. The two lived in France, enjoying many years together, but they needed a house in the United States to add to their collection. In 1934, the couple built Casa Alva, named in honor of Consuelo's renewed love for her mother. Just south of Palm Beach, the couple ended up leaving Europe behind at the outbreak of World War II for the safety of Florida, relocating to the United States in the early 1940s. With them, Consuelo brought antique French wall panels, which she had installed throughout the house. When she would run out of room, she simply had the architect create more space to accommodate her collection of architectural salvage. The two enjoyed life at Palm Beach during the summer season, but like most wealthy Americans, they wouldn't live there year-round. As was expected from a family of their status, the two purchased a fashionable apartment in Manhattan and purchased a rambling country estate on Long Island known as Oldfields. By this time, Jacques' health was getting the best of him. When he passed away in 1956, Consuelo couldn't bear to be reminded of their shared memories within their many mansions, and she began selling them. They had purchased another mansion in Palm Beach, which Jacques had never had the chance to stay in, so with no memories attached to the property, Consuelo kept it. She also ended up keeping her Manhattan apartment, but replaced Oldfields with Cara Mia, a large house in Southampton which had been built around the turn of the century. She spent her golden years in this house, entertaining her children and grandchildren and hosting balls for the upper echelon of society. Still with a love for everything French, she fitted the house with antique French wall panels and decorated the rooms with the most exquisite furniture she had collected over her lifetime. She quietly passed away here in 1964, leaving her estate and the remainder of her trust mostly to her granddaughter, Lady Sarah Russell. In her autobiography, The Glitter and the Gold, she wrote, "It is a melancholy fact that childhood, so short when compared with the average span of life, should exert such a strong and permanent influence on character that no amount of self-training afterwards can ever completely counter it." As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments section, and while you're there, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode of This House.